So here's a quick, entertaining one about a guy who foolishly married a single MOM. A single MOM who, as you're going to see, is terrible with money and was using him as an ATM machine. Her children was using this guy as an ATM machine. And finally, when he's had enough, he kicks her to the curb. And now she's after him and having a meltdown because he's so-called keeping her in poverty or something like that. She's impoverished as her kids because he's not there because he dumped her. It's just watch this. Title: Am I the a-hole for making my ex-wife and her kids live in quote-unquote poverty even though I have money? He says, I, 46-year-old male, recently finalized my divorce with my now ex-wife, Lisa, 41-year-old female. We were only married for 3 years, and the cause for the divorce was issues with finances. Well, more like her issues with money, not yours. We had separate bank accounts for our savings and checking accounts for where our salaries went. I did create an extra account for her where I would deposit money in monthly just for fun, spending money, as I make significantly more money and wanted her to have less stress with her finances. Smack! How well is this going to go? And if she has stresses with finances, usually means because she is very little self-control when it comes to spending. She's foolish. She has impulse issues, stuff like that. Even with this setup, she would consistently go over the limit and would even take lots of cash out of my wallet and personal safe without informing me. You are her ATM machine. You should, number one, you should never marry her anyway, given the fact that she's a single MOM with kids and clearly with money problems. I'm sure you probably could have figured that out when you were still dating her. She's never done that. And two, now she's doing this, instant grounds for ending the marriage. When we were married, she and her 2 kids, an 18-year-old male and a 16-year-old female. So the one's a fucking adult, 18. From a previous relationship, moved into my house that I own, and I paid for them to go to private high school. Smack! Are you out of your mind? Is their mom that good looking, that good in bed? Why isn't their own father paying for them? Why are you doing it, dude? Their dad is in their life, so they never saw me as anything other than the guy who married their mom. But I understand that because they did not meet me much later in their lives, as little kids. Regardless, I tried to keep a good relationship, but neither of them ever wanted that and made me feel like an ATM machine. Because you were their ATM machine. That was it. Nothing more. And you allowed yourself to be used, man. I got a really thorough prenup made before we got married. So I basically kept everything I had except for some alimony that I have to pay every month. After the divorce, Lisa and her kids moved out, and I informed her that I had closed the bank account that I made for her spending her money, and I'm going to stop paying for the kids' private school tuition after their school year is over. So that way at least they can finish the year out and have a few months to figure out the next plans and transferring. If the oldest son's 18, then why the hell is he still in high school at this point? I mean, unless it's his last year. Okay, you're nice enough to say you'll finish out the year. And you're already paying alimony after 3 years of just marriage. But why would you be giving her money in that separate accounts anyway, right? It's been about 3 months since then. I got a nasty phone call from her saying that she can't afford rent anymore. So she and the kids have to move in with her mother and basically berated me for taking away the credit card attached to my bank account. You're divorced. You're already paying her alimony. What the hell does she expect? But obviously she perceives you as being a weakling, and she figures she can browbeat you into giving her money and giving what she wants. Obviously she was wrong. But for God's sakes, and she doesn't have a job. What did she do before she met you? Obviously somebody was paying the bills. Apparently the kids have also had to stop taking some extracurricular sports because she can't pay for the programs. She says that I left her in poverty, and she has to apply for government assistance and food stamps. She's getting alimony from you, for God's sakes. Does she have a job? Does she have a career? Okay, I mean, for God's sakes, what did she do before she met you? Who paid the bills then? Probably some other sucker. And guess what? They can't do the extracurricular activities. They're not your kids. How about they get a part-time job or something like that? Also, when we were married, I had mentioned potentially paying for her kids' college tuition when the time comes, but it was never a set thing. Apparently, she still thought this offer was on the table and mapped out how her son just got accepted to his dream school, and the cost of attendance would be $80,000 per year. So she wanted to know how I'd be sending the funds for this. Not happening. He says here, I mentioned maybe potentially paying for that, but he didn't say he was absolutely going to do that. And that was on the basis that they were married. not their divorce. And how about his old man helps him with that? Or better yet, how come he doesn't go to how about he doesn't go to school for $80,000 a year for college tuition? How about he goes to community college for a couple of years, lives at home, lives cheap? How about he gets a part-time fucking job? The little prince here. I just told her she's crazy. She thinks I'm giving up my hard-earned money for someone else's kids that I have no ties with anymore, and that I covered her bills completely for 3 years so she could have saved her salary then instead of blowing it through it on designer items. So right there, she pisses her money away on BS. A lot of her family and friends and her kid's dad are calling me saying that I need to provide for the kids, at least because I'm their stepdad, and that's a lifelong commitment. Bullshit. He met them they were married 3 years, that's it. And their dad is telling you this? How is this low life helping out? You gotta be shitting me. But again, my interpretation is they all see him as so weak that they can just push him around and get what they want eventually, and they're freeloaders. Also, according to them, it's not fair that I'm taking away the opportunities to be at a fancy private school and college, especially when I have the money to pay for it, and keep up their lifestyle and how they live with me, so am I the a-hole. No. You were the a-hole. You were the dumbass that married their mother, who used you for everything it was worth. If that's not obvious, that's the reason she got together with you. And you were the a-hole because you gave her everything and gave the kids everything and all that. But you're now redeemed yourself by divorcing her. So I would no longer take any calls. However, I would talk to your attorney just to make sure there are any issues, like, saying that he said he's going to pay for this or pay for that, and they can try to dig up anything because they're going to try to do that to milk you for all it's worth. But I would absolutely not take any calls anymore. But in that's something. Of course, her friends and family and ex-husband are going to come after you saying you should do this, you should do that. Fuck them. But I hope this guy really does learn from this and never do this type of thing, as you guys learn from these videos and never do something like this. Now, real quick, here are some comments here. One guy says here, not the a-hole. What kind of sane person would expect her ex-husband to pay for her and the kids? Lies. Not to mention the fact that the kids are not yours. Who says she's sane? Tell them that their ATM is now closed and wish them the best with their life. Block their phone numbers and enjoy your money. I don't think it's the end of them. Another guy says here, let me see if I understand correctly. Her ex-husband, as in their father, the kids in question, your former stepkids, called you up and said you need to pay for his kids to go to college. There's some big ass balls right there. Another guy says here, what? WTF, not the a-hole. Not even remotely. You are divorced. You had a prenup. The kids didn't consider you their dad, and they have their real dad. Doesn't sound like you adopted them. I don't see what the problem is. Legally, you're not responsible for her kids. Clearly, she was bad with money, and if you're divorcing her over financial issues, no child support was set up. She married you knowing there was a prenup. What's done is done. Exactly. End of freaking story. And one more. This guy says, ha 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 ha. Man, is she living in a fantasy world, and I should know after playing D&D for over 30 years. You don't owe them squat other than her alimony. Tell them to pound sand, and all further correspondence goes through a lawyer, not the a-hole. Amen. Hopefully this guy learns his lesson, but hopefully you guys can learn from this guy's mistakes. Don't get involved with the single MOMs, and particularly ones that are obviously terrible with money. Now, there are some good single MOMs out there. I know some that don't engage in behavior like this, but there are plenty of train wrecks out there that are just looking for a sucker to rope in and milk him for everything he's worth. And if you're not careful, that could happen to you. Learn, gentlemen.